Right now, tired of all the white stuff? This time we got snow, sleet, ice, freezing rain, and oh yeah, some power outages as well. Plus, and I know you don't want to hear this, we got more snow in the forecast. We've got what you need to know. And then, while one of the best known hospitals in our region, the only trauma level one between Albany and the city, now rejecting people who got insurance through the state's Obamacare site. Is this a case of a hospital behaving badly or good hospital, bad law? And later, 22 years and a generation of TV signs off tomorrow night. Jay Leno, the late night link from Johnny Carson to whatever you'd call the late night layout of today, he calls it a career. We'll have analysis from columnist Michael Musto. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday evening, February 5th. And we begin with, well, what else? The weather. Another big storm stuck in our area, but how much did we get, and are we all done here with this snow already? Well, first up tonight, FIOS 1 News meteorologist Jeff Denoyer, who's had a very busy week. And Jeff, as we'll get into a little bit later, you may have a few more busy days ahead. First off, talk about today.
You know, I think the biggest challenge with today's forecast, and I talked about it last night, was that it wasn't going to be just all snow. This was going to be a snow transitioning to freezing rain, transitioning to sleet, and eventually plain rain. But you have to remember, when that snow arrived this morning, it was coming down in some areas 2 to 3 inches per hour. So we're picking up 4, 5, 6, 7 inches of snow across the region. Some areas even more than that. The further north and west you went, close to a foot in some areas. And then you bring in the sleet, freezing rain, and rain. The snow is still melting now at that point, coupled with the rain, and you just get these huge puddles, and it's just a big slushy mess, made driving very tough this morning. Happy to say, though, the low pressure is pushing away from the area. Most of the snow now is confined to areas of central and northern New England. There is still a little patchy drizzle across the region, and with those temperatures right at that 32-degree mark, we could be looking at a little bit of icing with the freezing drizzle during the evening hours. But the main concern overnight tonight is eventually the precipitation stopping, cloud cover breaking up a little bit, and temperatures falling back to around 20 degrees. And when you have wet roadways like we have out there now, and these temperatures will be this cold tonight, black ice becomes a major issue after midnight. And I think if you have one of those really early morning commutes tomorrow, very dangerous conditions, not so much maybe driving on main highways, but secondary roads, overpasses, and sidewalks. Don't take that first step out of the front door and slip, because it will be very easy to do that tomorrow morning. So much, in fact, the National Weather Service has issued a winter weather advisory for the counties in purple. It includes all of Long Island. It includes northeastern New Jersey, the boroughs, Hudson Valley, and even into southwestern Connecticut. And that is because of the freezing drizzle and the black ice concerns overnight. As the low pulls away, it pulls down that cold air. So temperatures that were in the low 30s today fall back to 20. And with the wet roads, you get those very icy conditions. And that will be a major concern overnight into tomorrow morning. And of course, Rich, as you mentioned, maybe more snow for the weekend.
We'll do the Futurecast a little bit later in the hour, Jeff, but I had heard something that this could be the coldest winter we've had in about 20 years, and we've seen some record snowfalls and accumulations in places not used to seeing it. Is that right here, that this season, it's not just our imaginations, but been particularly brutal?
You know, I think it started in December, January, and now the first couple of days of February, we're talking about very cold temperatures, way below where we should be. So cold, yes. Is it one of the snowiest winters we've had? I think we're above average, but we've seen snowier winters in this. But you got to remember, we still have the rest of the month to go through, and we still have March to talk about as well.
And obviously, the accumulation's not going anywhere with the low temps that you mentioned. So we'll be talking about later about what the next few days could be looking like. Jeff, thank you. Now, that heavy snow combined with the ice, as Jeff mentioned, obviously a recipe for disaster for those strained power lines. And that means a whole lot of folks in our region in the dark tonight, including the folks in the Garden State. And FIOS 1 News' Kimberly Wallace, she has been talking with officials from PSE&G, and she joins us live tonight with Newark with more. Kim?
Recipe for disaster is a great way to put it, Rich. This has been the most severe storm so far this winter as far as power outages go. That's according to PSE&G. The good news, they've been able to restore power to 40,000 customers. But the bad news, 35,000 others remain without it.
It depends on the damage in each location, but some customers may not be restored until tomorrow or even Friday morning.
Along Milltown Road in East Brunswick, this crew worked to repair a downed power line that snapped from the pole. The town had the most outages of Middlesex County.
You know, you're hoping that it comes back on quick, but after about 2 hours, you start to. I have a generator back here, so you start to think, should I go through and hook all this stuff up, but it's tough.
East Brunswick is just one example of the havoc caused by today's storm taking place throughout the state.
We have crews out working 24 hours until every last customer is restored, and we also have crews that we've brought in from Canada and from other states that are working alongside our crews.
Christine Lloyd, spokesperson for PSE&G, explains why this storm differed from previous snow, causing chaos to power systems.
It's really when there's coating of ice that comes onto our wires, onto our equipment, and that can bring down branches and tree branches onto our equipment. That's much more problematic to us than a simple snowstorm.
Some of the other latest numbers we have, PSE&G out on Long Island still has 3,000 customers without power. JCP&L, about 5,000 power outages remain. And Con Edison in New York City, and the Hudson Valley still have about 3,000 power outages being reported. Again, crews working throughout the night to try to restore power as quickly as possible. We're live in Newark for RFL. I'm Kimberly Wallace. Rich?
Thank you very much, Kim. And if you were lucky enough to have power today, it was still pretty much a pain to get out and go just about anywhere. Most roads here messy at best this morning. You know, if you got kids, school shut down more often than not. Now you got main roads. Well, they're doing much better as we speak, but side streets still slick. And then, of course, the rails. They got the worst of both problems tonight. Strain on the overhead power lines and snow on the tracks. So the question is, how are things going when it comes to this evening rush? Well, FiOS 1 News' Raven Santana answers that from the Frank Lattenberg station in Secaucus in Jersey. Raven?
Yeah, that's right. The news is mixed for those traveling by bus or train. The good news is New Jersey Transit says all buses and trains will be up and running through this evening's commute. The bad news is you may have to wait about 40 minutes for that bus or train.
Really horrible. The whole day is just a disaster. But, you know, just trying to make it, you know, another dollar, another day.
Daniqua Fullwood, who is traveling by train today, is just one of hundreds of New Jersey Transit passengers here at Newark Penn Station that experienced major delays due to the overnight snowstorm that made traveling treacherous.
The cost that I would pay to a taxi to come here is generally $25. I pay $50 today, because nobody wants to come and pick you up from your apartment to come here because of the roads.
Passengers who chose to travel by bus or train experienced delays up to 40 minutes here at Newark Penn Station. New Jersey Transit says it was bad road conditions for buses and ice on the overhead wires that caused problems for trains.
Our trains are equipped with large shovels in front of them. I don't know if you noticed our locomotives. So that clears out the snow. It gets that out of the way. I think the worry is more ice on the wires than actual snowfall.
And here at Secaucus Junction, the story stayed the same. Passengers I spoke with who experienced delays and cancellations say if they didn't have obligations, they would have stayed home.
Well, coach buses weren't running, so I had to take a train. And I had a job interview, so I had to come.
I was supposed to leave at 3 a.m. this morning, and we got delayed. So now I'm back at 2, waiting for the 2:25 bus. So hopefully they don't delay us again.
You have service, it's up and running. There might be slight delays, but it's up and running.
No one will be stranded.
No one will be stranded.
New Jersey Transit says it will extend cross-honoring its tickets for all modes of transportation for riders through this evening's commute. Long Island seems to be doing well, but there are still trouble spots on Metro north of the city. So if you're planning to head out, you may want to check that schedule. That's the latest here in Secaucus. Raven Santana, FiOS 1 News. Back to you, Rich.
Thank you very much, Raven. And you know, there is an economic impact to this beyond the obvious. Because we've had so many storms and still we're only in early February, we're going to be talking a little bit later on in this program about some of the dollars and cents of this. You already have strained supplies as it relates to the salt and the sand, et cetera, and also budgets. And you're going to hear here from local leaders, whether they're mayors, even on the county level. Their budgets are strained to begin with, and now weather's taxing that even further. So there is a consequence between all the headaches and all the safety issues we talk about. That, again, coming up a little bit later in the program. Now, it has been one of the big fears since the rollout of the health care reform that hospitals will drop people once they make the change to Obamacare. And now That's exactly what could be happening in Westchester County, New York. So the question is, who do we point the finger of blame at? The hospital in question here or the law? We'll get into that conversation right after this quick commercial break.